Welcome back everyone. This video has been my favourite one to work on for quite a while now, I think. Time capsules are fascinating. People fill them up with items from their time and then bury them underground for tens, hundreds or even thousands of years. There are always time capsules being discovered and opened by people today. Most of them are fun, educational, a bit nostalgic. Sometimes though, people unearth dark secrets of the past that people would have rather forgotten. Once they reach the surface though, the secrets are out. Here are 10 of the best that I could find. My name is Danny Burke and this is the top 10 scary time capsules from the past. Starting off at number 10 now, we have the mental hospital. In 2015, a construction crew in Indiana discovered a time capsule from 1958 that was put there by the staff of a former mental hospital. It contained their message to the future, to us, and it was in the form of a video. The experts were excited to hear what the message would say, but were disappointed to find that most of the audio was missing. It had degraded over the years. There was only a little bit left at the end where an unknown man said, "When the psychiatrists of the future open this time capsule, only they will be able to tell how well we've solved our treatment problems." The audio cuts out, and when it returns, the men are discussing electroshock therapy, a common practice in the 50s used to treat mental disorders, which has fallen out of favour and been heavily criticised over the years. Now, the hospital eventually closed down in 1992. Historians have a hard time figuring out who are the men in the actual video and what the missing audio parts were, especially when it comes to electroshock therapy. Next up at number 9 now, we have Abandon. This one comes from India, where a user shared a strange box they found in their grandmother's house while helping her clear up. It was a safe, but the grandmother didn't know the combination. They took a hammer and a chisel to it, and when they finally opened it up, they quickly realised it was a time capsule. The grandmother believed it must have been put together by her own grandmother many years ago. That made it at least 4 generations old. Inside, they discovered a note that read, "Abandon all regret, ye who enter here." That's a famous line from Dante's Divine Comedy. Now, they figured it may be a sort of ominous warning, but they continued to look through the contents. They found a bag with Chinese calligraphy on, which read, "Double happiness." Inside, they found a pen, a plastic box, a suede pouch and an oil lamp. They also found pictures of the grandmother's own grandparents. They were glad they didn't heed the creepy warning on the note. Moving on to number 8 now, we have J.M. Barrie. That's the name written on a trunk that was discovered in 2010 by 2 women who were clearing out an abandoned building in LA. J.M. Barrie was a nurse from Scotland, and she had the same initials as James M. Barrie, the author of Peter Pan, also Scottish. When they opened the trunk up, they were horrified to find the bodies of 2 babies in there from the 1930s. They were wrapped in sheets and hidden in 2 doctor's bags along with some old newspapers and other belongings. Investigators found no connection between the 2 individuals though, even though a copy of Peter Pan was found with the babies, and there was also membership papers for the Peter Pan Woodland Club Resort. Coroners reported no signs of trauma on the babies and could find no evidence that they had been aborted. One of them had clearly reached full term, while the smaller one may have been born prematurely. Despite there being no concrete link between Peter Pan and the babies, some people have speculated there is one, and that it has something to do with Never Never Land, where children never grow up. Is that a little bit morbid? Do you think there's something darker to this story than meets the eye? Moving on to number 7 now, we have The Boy. In 2016, a demolition crew in Albuquerque, New Mexico discovered a time capsule from 1968 near a former elementary school. It appeared to have been made by a boy at the time who wanted it to be found at some point in the future. The workers were prepared for a cute message, but the letter they found inside proved to be quite a bit creepier. It read, "I am dead. I go to Montgomery School. That is the olden school name. I was born in 1900. You auto, now I dead. My favourite subject is spooking the police. I play the guitar. In case you don't know what it is a board with strings on them. I am 10 years old. See you later, savages." That was it. That was the whole letter. It was signed by a boy called Greg Lee Youngman. Now, efforts to find Greg today have been mostly unsuccessful. Some people say that's because there really was some sort of guitar playing ghost from a century ago living near that school who had just left the letter. Others say it was just a kid with a large imagination. Either way, the letter itself is pretty creepy. Moving on down to number 6, we have Mother. This is a horrifying story from 2016. A woman in North Carolina thought she had struck an absolute bargain when she bought a freezer from her neighbor for just $30. When she opened it at home though, she was horrified to find human remains in the freezer. The neighbor had put her own mother inside there and simply told the buyer she had been using it as a time capsule. In an interview, the buyer said, "She sold me her frozen mother for $30. How do you do something like that?" I think an even better question would be why. She said she hadn't seen her neighbor's mother in months but didn't really suspect any foul play. When the police went to investigate on that day, they found the daughter had already left town, telling the buyer that she was going to West Virginia to visit her mother in a nursing home, even though she knew full well where her mother really was. Coming in at number 5 now, we have Hiroshima. In January 1968, two Japanese companies agreed to create a joint time capsule project in celebration of Japan's World Exposition Fair in 1970. It was intended to be buried for 5,000 years. The upper capsule was opened in 2000 and is intended to be open every 100 years thereafter. It was intended to give the people of the future an insight into the world of 1970 and also the everyday life of Japanese people. It contained artifacts recorded through art, literature and music. It also contained some more unusual items, including a slinky toy, some glass eyeballs, and the black fingernail of a Hiroshima atomic bomb survivor. It had only been 25 years since the US dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima that led to Japan's surrender, and it was still fresh in the mind of many Japanese people. Human fingernails are made of keratin, which does not decompose, and so this one should still be intact in the year 6970, 5,000, well, almost 5,000 years from now. The time capsule's creators felt that this will serve as a grisly but important reminder of the horrors of war for all future generations. Moving on now to number 4, we have Nazis. It's never going to be a good one when I start it with that, is it? In September 2016, Polish archaeologists dug up a Nazi time capsule that had been buried under a Nazi officer training center over 80 years before. Hitler even visited it himself. Archaeologists have known about the time capsule's existence for quite a while, but it was only in 2016 they were able to actually break through the concrete and retrieve the capsule. They found its contents very well preserved. There were photos, letters, an invitation to the building's opening, newspapers, coins, and a book about the town's history. Sounds pretty normal for a time capsule, but there were also some other additions, 2 copies of Hitler's Mein Kampf and also some pictures of him. Oh, it was all going so well. Next up at number 3 now, we have The Apartment. In June 2010, a French woman called Solange Beaugueron died in the south of France, aged 91. When the executors of her will were going through her records, they discovered that she actually owned an entire apartment in Paris that she had never even mentioned before. They noticed that she had been making regular payments for this place for decades. When they finally opened it up, they were astonished to find the apartment had been untouched for all this time. It contained countless paintings, furniture, and common elements of early 20th century life. The whole apartment was a time capsule frozen in time. It turns out that Solange had inherited the apartment after her grandmother died in 1939. At some point during the Second World War, Solange had left the apartment in Paris and fled to the south of France from the Nazis when they arrived. She never mentioned the apartment to anyone, but continued to pay for it over all those years, while the priceless paintings just gathered dust. One of them even sold for €3 million at auction. Moving on now to number 2, we have Einstein. In 1939, Albert Einstein wrote a letter to go with the contents of a time capsule that was being buried to commemorate the New York World's Fair. It remains 50 feet underground at Flushing Meadows and is not meant to be open again until the year 6939, 5,000 years after it was buried. Einstein's letter contains some creepily accurate predictions about the future. He talked about the great achievements that science had made in his time, but said that production and distribution of commodities is entirely unorganized, so that everybody must live in fear of being eliminated from the economic cycle, in this way suffering for the want of everything. Furthermore, people living in different countries kill each other at irregular time intervals, so that also for this reason anyone who thinks about the future must live in fear and terror. This is due to the fact that the intelligence and character of the masses are incomparably lower than the intelligence and character of the few who produce something valuable for the community. When people hear about that message, they often feel like it resembles the world that we live in today. Are people living in constant fear of violence or economic threat? I'm sure the comment section in this video will have a lot to say about that. And finally, number 1 now, we have trophies. A while ago, a man was using his metal detector in some woods when he came across a time capsule. He excitedly opened it, but soon found some disturbing items inside. It was filled with a teddy bear, clothes, photos, a camera, and a girl's Pee-wee softball medal from 2003. It looked like the belongings of a young girl. Soon, people began to speculate that the time capsule actually held the trophies of a serial killer. If true, it's thought the killer wanted to hold on to these mementos of the people they've murdered. They'd chosen the forest as the secluded spot where nobody would find it. They didn't count on this man with his metal detector. The police investigated but concluded that the items were probably innocent memorabilia left as a time capsule by their owner. They tested the items for DNA and began to reference it to the list of unsolved crimes, hoping to find a match that might lead to solving a murder from the past. Alright then guys, that was a lot of information to take in there. Well done to you for getting all the way through it. While you digest it all, let's quickly take a look at some previous comments. These all come from the top 10 scary Viking stories video that I did. Edgy Giles said, his voice is really relaxing. Is it just me? Well, thank you very much. I'm going to take that as a compliment. It's not the first time that I've heard it, and yeah, great. I'm glad that I can relax people out there with only my speaking voice. That kind of sounds like a really weak superpower. Danny Burke, the power to relax people with his speaking voice. If you see me in the next Marvel movie, remember you heard it here first. Delaney Xanadin also commented, great name by the way, they said, I love the Vikings. I'm actually trying to write a fictional book about them. Your top 10 Viking urban legends actually gave me inspiration. Thank you for posting another Vikings video. I love all your videos. That is honestly so cool to hear. I'm very glad that any of my videos can inspire any of you guys to be creative in life. That means so much for me to hear. Let me know when you finish writing your story and I would love to read it, honestly. And any of you out there, let me know if any of our videos have ever inspired you to do something creative. Now it's time to thank you as always for watching guys. My name is Danny Burke and I will see you all in the next one.